This didn't make any sense to her. How did a melody that she had locked down over the summer, last summer, suddenly appear on Jennifer Lopez's album? This was something that really bothered her.
Baby, I know you've probably heard plenty of talk about how both Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez have edged certain artists out of the spotlight. But did they actually take over a career that was supposed to belong to Mariah Carey? Not by chance, not by accident, but on purpose, like they carefully made moves to replace her and take over the space she left behind. And it's not just gossip. Allegedly, this is straight from Mariah herself. So I hope you're sitting down, because this drama is wild.
Have you heard Beyonce Drunk in Love?
I don't know. I love Beyonce, but I have not heard
Mariah just flew in from her own planet, I'm telling you. This is Mariah's.
From my own planet?
Yes.
I did.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't.
One thing nobody can argue is that during the 90s, Mariah Carey was running the music scene. She wasn't just singing, she was writing her own songs, producing her albums, and shaping her own image. And she was doing all this in an industry that rarely gave that kind of freedom to women, especially women of color. Mariah was stylish, mysterious, mixed race, and blending different music styles like it was second nature. She didn't follow the formula, she created it. In fact, if you look back, even Beyoncé used to speak about Mariah like she was everything. She praised her the way people talk about legends, calling her the reason she started singing. It wasn't Whitney Houston or Aretha Franklin that young. Beyoncé kept mentioning it was Mariah. Beyoncé even said Mariah's vision of love was the song that made her fall in love with singing. She's publicly named Mariah as one of her biggest inspirations, and if you search around, there are clips and interviews where a younger Beyoncé is clearly admiring Mariah's vocals and stage presence like a true fan.
Carrie's voice comes from God. You can hear the gospel in her voice. It's very nice to see her in the church. The whole message in the video was just vision of love. Was one of the first songs I heard when I was a kid, where I heard all of these riffs, and I was like, how does she do that? In this little short amount of times, the amount of notes she could squeeze in that one little bar, 2 bars, was fascinating to me. And that's kind of when I started trying it. And it's something that I love to do in my music, but she completely inspired.
Honey, I'm not sure what went down between them, but something definitely shifted. One day, Beyoncé was praising Mariah like she was untouchable, and the next it just stopped. People began to think Beyoncé started believing she had surpassed Mariah. And let's be honest, even though Mariah has one of the strongest legacies in music, she doesn't always get the same level of respect as someone like Michael Jackson or Prince. She's known for her incredible vocals, yes, but the media often boxes her in as the sparkly diva who shows up every December in heels and a Santa outfit. Meanwhile, Beyoncé seems to be aiming for a different kind of legacy, something bigger than just music. She wants to be remembered like MJ, or as the female Prince, someone who transformed music, visuals, and culture all in one. And maybe in that vision, she doesn't see Mariah as fitting into that same lane. Some even believe Beyoncé didn't just rise to the top by pure talent, she had serious industry support. There are claims that she and Jay-Z may have used their influence to shift the spotlight away from Mariah. Not directly stealing her career, but redirecting the path of it. It's how the business works. Those who play the game and build the right connections often rise faster, even at the cost of more gifted artists like Mariah. Then comes the other name in this story, Jennifer Lopez. Around the same time, J.Lo started becoming a big name. No doubt she's beautiful and talented in her own ways, but vocally she's nowhere near Mariah's level. Yet somehow, she kept getting pushed into global superstardom movies, fashion, fragrances, even the Super Bowl halftime show. While there's no solid proof linking Beyoncé to hurting Mariah's career, the drama between Mariah and J.Lo is far more obvious. Back when Mariah was working on the movie Glitter and dealing with problems in her marriage to Tommy Mottola, she had secured the rights to sample Yellow Magic Orchestra's 1978 track Firecracker for her song Loverboy. But then, out of nowhere, that same sample showed up on J.Lo's album before Mariah's song was even released. J.Lo was already known from In Living Color, but she struggled to break into the music world because her vocals weren't strong. She also couldn't really make it on Broadway for the same reasons. That's where Tommy Mottola comes in. He was Mariah's husband at the time, but their relationship was falling apart. Mariah wanted to leave both him and her label, Sony. Tommy, however, wasn't ready to let her go. So, as a way to sabotage her, he took the song Loverboy, which Mariah had already recorded on, gave it to J.Lo instead. He shelved Mariah's version and pushed J.Lo's out first. And yes, J.Lo knew about it and still went along with the plan. Mariah knew Tommy was behind it. In her book, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, she shared how a lot of what went wrong with Glitter led back to Tommy. He was angry about the breakup and her leaving Sony, and he used every bit of his power to make sure she wouldn't succeed afterward. He didn't want her or her film to do well. Once he heard the sample on her track, Sony rushed to give that same sample to another female artist on their label. Mariah didn't name her, but it was clear who she meant. And speaking of Mariah not naming names, remember that iconic moment? When she was asked about different female artists in the industry, she said Beyonce was kind and talented. But when asked about J.Lo, Mariah gave the now famous response, "I don't know her." That line has lived on ever since. Later, during a 2002 interview on Larry King Live, Larry asked her if there was any tension in the industry and if she had beef. With JLo Mariah's answer, she said there's no competition if the other person can't sing. Now that was cold.
There are rivalries, but I don't think she has anything to do with me. I mean, my whole thing is singing, writing
She's
songs.
an actress.
Yeah, and I've been doing this, my whole life. Singing is first and foremost. It's a God-given talent that I'm grateful for. Her thing is.
Mariah didn't hold back when it came to throwing shade about J.Lo possibly not singing her own songs. In an interview with Talk magazine, Mariah mentioned she was barely getting 3 hours of sleep each night. When she heard J.Lo claiming she got 8 hours of rest, Mariah sarcastically said, "If I had the luxury of not having to sing my own songs, darling, I'd do that too." That comment hit hard. She clearly meant it. But let's be real, Mariah wasn't just making stuff up. The talk about J.Lo not really singing on her own tracks has been around for years. Take the song I'm Real, for example, which came out in September 2001. It was supposed to be on JLo's second album, but according to Ashanti, that track was originally being saved for her. She had already recorded it and the vocals were ready. Ashanti later said she didn't know why Irv Gotti, her label boss at Murder, Inc. ended up giving the song to JLo. Turns out, JLo couldn't quite handle the vocals, so they left Ashanti's voice in the mix. That's why when you listen to I'm Real, you can still hear Ashanti singing in the background. And here's something even more surprising. The track wasn't just handed to Ashanti randomly. It was originally meant for Mariah, and Irv Gotti has gone on record saying that Tommy Mottola told him to pass the song to JLo as a way to hurt Mariah. They probably figured Ashanti wouldn't agree to be part of something so shady, so they used JLo instead. And it didn't stop there. Ashanti also wrote Ain't It Funny, another one of JLo's big hits. She wrote the lyrics, sang the hook, and even added the background ad-libs. JLo just had to show up and record the final vocals, doing the bare minimum while Ashanti did most of the work.
How did that J.Lo record actually happen? You wrote the song for yourself, or you wrote it for J.Lo?
I wrote it for J.Lo.
J.Lo almost ended up taking What's Love too. It was Fat Joe who actually revealed that the track was nearly pulled from Ashanti and handed to J.Lo. And the wild part, J.Lo knew it was already Ashanti's song, but she still seemed fine with the idea of taking it. Joe said,